My name is Kamilah Sanders, and I am president on the board of Tennessee Craft Midstate Chapter. And today we are doing a panel on community engagement and collaborations. And we have an exciting panel, lots of guests with us, lots of different organizations. So I'm excited to be talking about this today. I think it's a really important topic. I think we've seen over the past few years that we all have a lot of differences, but when we come together, we can go a lot further together. So without further ado, I would love for our panelists to just give us a brief introduction about who you are, who your organization is, and then also what your organization does. And Jessica, do you want to start? Oh, you're on mute.
Sorry about that. Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Jessica Williams. I am the communications director with the Equity Alliance. The Equity Alliance is a Nashville-based nonpartisan 501c3. Our mission is to unapologetically build Black independent political and civic and economic power. We do that by educating people. We do that by mobilizing and organizing people to keep the government in check. That's blatantly what we do. We do that by a couple of different things. We do it by being helping folks to be civically engaged, with registering people to vote, through educating folks with our Liberty program. But that's all that I can probably say in like 10 seconds to give everybody else time.
Thanks, Jessica. Bonnie, you want to go next?
Hi, I'm Bonnie Matthews. I'm the development director at Tennessee Craft. I also work a lot with community engagement and artist programs. And Tennessee Craft was founded in 1965. It's the only statewide artist membership organization, and we represent visual artists all across Tennessee with exhibitions, events, chapters at the local level, including the Midstate chapter.
Shaun,
Hey.
since you're in my next order.
Yes, my name is Shaun Giles. I am the Community Engagement Director at the Frist Art Museum, where I have been since 2005. And I'm also on the governing board for Tennessee Crafts. Of course, the Frist Art Museum, our goal is to show world-class art. We do not have our own collection, so we see maybe 12 to 15 different exhibitions a year. And we also emphasize education and community engagement around those exhibitions. So we'll talk a little bit more about what I do, hopefully, as we go.
Yes, and Mark, please enlighten us as to everything that you're involved in.
Oh, everything? I thought this
No,
was
not
only a half hour. Thanks, Kamilah. Yes, my name is Mark Schlicker. I am a filmmaker and practicing sculptor. I also, as far as organizationally, I am involved with Tennessee Craft Midstate as a board member and have been for a couple of years. I serve on the Nashville Public Library Foundation Advocacy Committee. I have been asked for 2 years to be on the Cheekwood Black Arts Bash Advisory Committee, and I am a founding board member of the Friends of the William Edmondson Homesite Park and Gardens 501c3, where our mission is to preserve, protect, and enhance the historic site where William Edmondson, the self-taught artist who was the first Black American artist to receive a solo show at the Museum of Modern Art, where he lived and worked in Edge Hill. And as part of that, we are advocating in Metro government and with community partners for a community-led master plan that we put together with community input that envisions a William Edmondson cultural arts museum, library, and arts facility. So yeah, it's a big ask, but we have big dreams. And that's it. Did I miss anything, Kamilah?
I'm sure you did, but we'll get more into it. No, I mean, I love it that you said we have big dreams, because I think we all kind of do. And I think it's interesting over the past year, or actually not years really, that we've had this pandemic. We've had, everyone's on Zoom, like we're on Zoom now, we're doing virtual, but then we're also going back in person, but then we're also kind of wanting to still do virtual. So it's like all these advances in technology, these racial awakening, people just more like joining together and having, just focusing more on community. Like even in Nashville, we had that huge tornado that happened, and then, you know, the pandemic happened. And so I would like to ask you how your organization has shifted over these last few years. What are some of the major things that you've done just in response to all of these things happening, how the world is changing? Anyone can start.
Jump in there. So I can start out with what we did with right at the beginning of the pandemic, literally right when the tornado happened. We established our Don't Sell Out North campaign, where we went into the community and helped people living in North Nashville and East Nashville, helping those people get what they needed, whether it was a night at a hotel, helping them to get the funds for their insurance deductibles, whatever we could do for them to make sure that they were able to stay in their homes and not have to sell to the developers, because developers, will be honest, that developers are kind of coming into the neighborhoods and swooping down and giving people pennies for the homes that they had been in for generations, generational homes that they had maybe just been in, but we helped those folks be able to stay in their homes. And then in addition to that, right when pandemic relief funds started to trickle down federally, we made sure that we partnered with the mayor's office to make sure that those funds made it to the Nashville communities that would and should be able to benefit from them. And from that, we established the Our Fair Share campaign. And then throughout that, we kind of shifted into our 2020 Black Voter Project, where we were able to register upwards of 89,000 folks in Shelby County to register to vote. So we've been kind of in these streets, as they say. We've been in these streets making sure that not only everybody is educated on how to vote, where to vote, and who to vote for with our Tennessee Voter Guide, our nonpartisan Tennessee Voter Guide. We've also been in the community loving on them and making sure that they're able to benefit from resources, that they're able to take advantage of their resources, and that they know that the resources are there for them.
Mark, did you want to jump in there too?
Sure, I can. The Friends of the William Edmondson home site was founded in 2018 as a response to the city announcing an intention to sell the historic property, which is actually the site of a decommissioned elementary school. And it was done this intention was to plug a hole in the budget. And so we really came from an advocacy point of view from the very beginning. And it was a very grassroots effort that brought together people like myself who had an interest in historic preservation, and particularly the preservation of Black history in Nashville. Also people, both longtime residents in the public housing as well as newer residents, to find common ground around preserving the park, which was being used as a park, but wasn't being supported by the Parks Department and was therefore made vulnerable. So, you know, our organizing from the beginning was done on both a technological and a on the ground in person fashion. So we had a change.org petition that was very instrumental in our organizing very quickly to influence the city council to ultimately vote against that sale. And we use social media, primarily Facebook, very heavily. As we were successful in preventing the sale, then we started to switch into, well, we need to have a 501c3, we need to create a permanent presence, and we need to engage in community and with community and led by the community to define not just what we were against, but what we were for. And that was foundational to us. And so we switched to on the ground community meetings, and including, you know, old school organizational techniques such as flyers in the neighborhood that were distributed, and as well as continuing the social media piece. like everyone else, the sudden, the tornado, and then right on the heels of that, the sudden onset of the pandemic and the quickness of the lockdown took us by surprise. And we were in the middle of some of those community meetings around some issues regarding what the community wanted for the future of the home site. And to be honest with you, it was tough at first, partly because a lot of the voices that needed to be heard were not people who were social media savvy, or maybe didn't have access to good internet in some cases. And so to have authentic community engagement that was not just checking a box on paper, that really included all the people whose voices needed to be heard, was a challenge at first. Ultimately, when we started to feel like, and we were getting indication from the public health authorities that it was okay to, engage in outdoor activities, we slowly started leveraging the fact that we were in a park to begin meeting together in person. But our board certainly met online on Zoom calls, and as we got through it as best we could. I don't want to say that it was a grand time, because we didn't have a lot of resources, in terms of paid staff or people that could put something together that was elegant and complete. We did the best we could, and we're glad that we're able to, at least for now, be out and meet in person much more than we had been. There are other things that I could say, but I'll give the floor back for now.
Thanks, Mark. Bonnie or Shaun, you want to jump in with that question about how your organization has shifted over the last few years?
Sure, I'll hop in. Well, I think with the pandemic, it kind of forced us to do some things that we had some half-hearted interest in doing. So going virtual, being able to increase our reach in that way, was something we kind of explored in the past, but we run up against all these challenges, wondering if other organizations were equipped to do the same, wondering if schools were able to accommodate for virtual experiences. So of course, when 2020 comes around, everybody has to make that shift. And so that sort of made us, finally fully embrace something that really has been an asset. We've been able to provide experiences, gallery experiences to people at home. We've been able to meet virtually and do teen programming that made it possible for teens 100 miles away to participate. And that's something we've seen across the board, that reach, being able to reach people who wouldn't be able to drive into the museum on a Thursday afternoon. They can sit at their homes wherever they are and experience working with an artist, or experience a gallery tour. So that by itself is something that we've all shifted to, but it's been very important for us and for the way we operate. It's also made us meet more frequently with some of our community partners. It's given us an opportunity to deepen those connections. The Frist Community Partnership Program goes back to our opening, but we have not had these opportunities to have these ongoing conversations in the way that we've been able to over the last year and a half or so. This downtime, I guess you could call it, it allowed us to really reevaluate our partnership program. And with that, we've found that a lot of our community partners, we have about 80 or so partners, 60 of which are active from year to year. We found that they want to connect as well, and they want to use the Frist as a conduit to do that. So we've been more intentional about creating those opportunities, about having meetings, not just with our small community partner advisory group, but having meetings with all of our partners, allowing them to come in and really interact with one another. We've set up a digital platform through Basecamp to allow partners to share and talk about opportunities and things like that. So this has really kind of nudged us in a direction that we didn't fully anticipate coming so quickly.
Well, Tennessee Craft is in the same boat as the Frist. I think as an institution that kind of has that long history of, a museum environment, or like, almost a 60-year-old organization that both rely on in-person engagements and events to connect with people. We had already started talking about the option of having some of our meetings online, because we do have board members all the way from Memphis to Johnson City, and getting them together in one place physically could be challenging. And sometimes they couldn't participate because it was too far to go. So this really pushed us. And so now we're in a place where we say, okay, what was good about that? What was a strength of being able to connect people, and where did it have its limits that we weren't able to fully realize our potential as a community using this technology? So for instance, our Master Artist Apprentice program has always been connecting a master artist, like Mark's wife, Jackie, here in Nashville, with a learning artist. And just this year, we have Jennifer Sargent in Memphis, who is a master artist working with M. Kelly in Nashville. So we have learned that it does work to make those connections a little bit broader, and can, so the possibilities have opened up. We're also moving most of our professional development into an online environment because it makes it more accessible. It removes barriers for folks on a lot of levels. We did a lunch and learn series that was free for members. And so, you could get the recording, you can watch it whenever is convenient for you. So that's phenomenal. That makes our reach that much stronger, and really meets people where they are. But we've also used technology to connect with people in interesting ways. Like, I learned about Ashley C's work because she was doing a virtual Jefferson Street art crawl out of woodcuts, and I follow woodcuts. So, I see her like walking around the studio talking about the art, and I'm like, she's interesting. Look at her work. Later that fall, we had the opportunity to interview artists for a virtual kids tent. This was fall of 2020. We certainly weren't getting a bunch of kids together in person. So you can still go to our website, tennesseecraft.org/kids, and you can see the interview that we did with her in woodcuts and the activity that we created with her. So, that led to opportunities for her to apply for Best of Tennessee Craft, to actually demonstrate and teach at the Tennessee State Museum as part of that event. So, I think we have to think about the way that we can connect, maybe make initial connections virtually, but we really have to grow those in person. And I think that's led to our collaboration with the Equity Alliance to work on a new art and craft show as part of the Black-owned Buchanan Street Festival. And that'll be on Juneteenth weekend, June 18th. And so we see that it's really vital for artists to be able to meet people in person. But that initial connection, that introduction, that could happen virtually.
Yeah, I love it how you kind of, because everyone's talking about, okay, we're in the streets, we're talking to people in person and doing this, but then we're also able to reach more people and have the programs be more accessible. And I think the underlying thing is really about that authenticity and the community connection. And like you said, just, okay, it's okay, virtual, but how do you continue to build that relationship for it to grow into something that's going to benefit people, whether you're reaching out virtually or you're doing something in person. What other, just, I feel like we have a great experience of people that are experiencing community engagement and really experts in community engagement that are, doing it. And so I want to ask for people that are watching, whether you're an individual or you're another organization, what are some tips or just advice or ways that people can go about doing collaborations and partnerships?
I can take a swing at that if
Yeah.
that's all right. I think that one of the silver linings, if you will, of going through the last 2 years is that most of us, many of us certainly have gotten much more comfortable with this kind of meeting, the virtual meeting. And I think that the way y'all framed it as an initial meeting that then deepens into in-person relationships, I think we're more comfortable socially with that model now than we ever were before. And I think that's something that people should leverage, both as a individual representative of an organization when talking to other individuals, rather than driving across town and, you know, spending your time and perhaps their time to meet somewhere in the initial meeting, jump on a Zoom call, jump on a Microsoft Teams or what have you. And particularly organization to organization. I had an initial meeting for an upcoming festival that we're going to plan our first William Edmondson Fall Festival on October 30th of this year. And in order to ramp up our organizational capacity, as well as contact potential partners and vendors and all of that, we are making big use of this kind of platform, particularly for group meetings. Let's say I'm one person representing our organization, but Metro Arts has 3 stakeholders that need to be in on that conversation. And now there's much less of a technological or psychological resistance to, hey, let's just get on a call together. We'll get to know each other as a group. And I think that's a tip that I'm taking with me. And as you know, I think it will allow us and other organizations to ramp up capacity to do bigger things more quickly from an organizational standpoint, because people are willing to get on the horn for a 30-minute Zoom call maybe, but not necessarily, well, I've got to drive across town to meet 3 other people and everyone's got to, you know, knock out 2 hours of their time. So all of a sudden we're much more efficient on those kinds of things. And the other tip, since you framed it that way, is, and this is something that I think all of us here probably do, is we may be associated with more than one organization, formally or informally, and we have relationships, and just being creative in our own thinking about, well, who might be interested in getting on board with this idea, this event, this question, and just being willing to get on the phone, get on a Zoom call and hash it out. I'm being creative about who are the resources I already have, and don't be afraid to, you know, pick up the phone.
Yeah. So Jessica, any advice for people that want to start partnerships or engage with the community?
My best advice would be probably meet people where they are. And right now, extending grace is very important, especially as we kind of get to a point where we're starting to be comfortable doing things in person, whether it be events or whether it be meeting people, partners in person, giving people a little grace and seeing, you know, testing and seeing where they are in their comfort level first. And then, but also kind of using that model of the professional FaceTime phone call as your initial contact, and kind of using that as a basis to mold the relationship. And then once everybody is ready, kind of pushing it forward and say, hey, why don't we meet so that we can connect a couple of people with us and connect more dots. I think in this day and age, especially with us in community engagement, we're professional dot connectors. So we have to, more times than not, liaison those things. So kind of being that person, the meeting of the minds, like, okay, let's get these people together, but let's get them all together in one spot. Everybody may not be comfortable. Those who are comfortable, let's meet, go wherever, meet together. Those who can't join us in person, let's let them join us virtually. So, I mean, extending the grace where it's needed, and then also meeting people where they are, I think is best. Nurturing those relationships. I think for me, I think of relationships in terms of actual ships, and what do you need for your ship to float? And that's what you pour into those relationships, whether it be a sponsorship or whether it be a partnership for collaboration or an in-kind, whatever it is, just meeting each other where we are to make sure that ship stays afloat.
That's good. I like that analogy.
Thank
So
you.
with that, I'm going to ask if everyone can just talk about like any upcoming initiatives that your organization has. If you didn't answer the last question, feel free, but any upcoming initiatives that your organization has, and then also where can people find more information? You can start. Oh, go on, Shaun. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Upcoming initiative that I'm really excited about is our teen program. That's something that we could have really lost momentum on over the pandemic, but thanks to virtual opportunities, we were able to keep that going. And we will have a teen exhibition, Teens Take the Frist, opening on June 24th, along with a sort of opening reception on the 25th, which is a Saturday, where we're inviting teens to come in. We're going to try to have performances, art activities, sort of almost a festival atmosphere. But along with that, we hope to carry that momentum into the next school year. We have our teen group, Teen Arts Action Group, who help sort of shape these things. So we're really excited about that and seeing the growth of that. You can learn more about that and all of our programs at fristartmuseum.org. So everything should be there.
I'll jump in. And I wanted to say, I would have said exactly what Jessica said about being in relationship and just strengthening each other. And I think we're all feeling really pressed in a lot of ways since things have reopened. And I know on a staff of anywhere from 2 to 4 paid staff with a really active governing board, I have to think about how everything I do does more than one thing. So if I'm putting time into something, so say you're out there exhibiting as an artist at an event, can you tell people about something else that you're doing? Can you connect people while you're there? And I see really effective people, some our board members do this all the time, are showing up for their own personal work, and they're also making connections while they're there. And that is a huge way to maximize your time and your impact in the world. So we have the Black on Buchanan Art and Craft Show. We were invited by the Nashville Jazz Workshop and the Curb Center at Vanderbilt to be kind of an artistic advisor on that because we produce the Tennessee Craft Fairs. So we are kind of modeling both a tent model on the street, on Buchanan Street, and an emerging artist section, which is being sponsored by the Nashville Jazz Workshop and Curb Center. And so those applications are open right now. You can find that on the Equity Alliance website. It's also linked on the Tennessee Craft website. We also just published an RFP for a new project in Black craft history in Tennessee over the past 100 years. Right now we have a panelist, Dr. Ernestine Jenkins, which again, met her for the first time, met her boss, the chair of the University of Memphis Art Department, through a virtual workshop. And then he said, hey, you need to meet Dr. Jenkins. And so met her for the first time online, and it was a hit. She was personally interested in what we were doing, and she was professionally interested in what we were doing. And so she's going to be one of the selection panel for that researcher. Again, that link is on our website, tennesseecraft.org. Of course, we have our fall fair coming up in October. Those applications are open right now. We are revamping our emerging artist program to remove some barriers and make it serve the artists a little bit better. So that emerging artist application will be open after the middle of June.
Jump in at the Equity Alliance. We are very, very busy. We have coming up most recently our Black on Buchanan Juneteenth block party, and that is in partnership with a couple of different folks. The Nashville Black Market is powering our vendor village. We're partnering with Tennessee Craft and also Inca Gallery for our Black on Buchanan Art and Craft Festival. And then we're going to have live performances. 101.1 The Beat is going to come out and do a live broadcast broadcast for us. So there's going to be a ton of different and amazing things that'll happen for us on Juneteenth. And that's going to be centered along, of course, historic Buchanan in North Nashville. And then the next month in July, we have our 3rd annual Black Women's Empowerment Weekend. And that's going to be a weekend filled with Black girl magic, Black excellence, and joy. During that event, we honor 3 extraordinary Black women for their contributions and achievements in 3 different areas: political, business, and the social arenas. Our honorees are Dr. Adrienne Battle, Rosetta Perry from the Tennessee Tribune, and then also P. Moses from Memphis. So we have some really great women that are a part of that event. You can find everything, all of this information on our website, theequityalliance.org for the individual events, theequityalliance.org/Juneteenth, and then also theequityalliance.org/women. And there is a ton of information on there, investment opportunities, and more information about the events and tickets.
Cool. So the William Edmondson home site is sponsoring our 1st annual William Edmondson Festival on October 30th. That's a Saturday. We will be partnering with, let's see, so far, I believe Creative Girls Rocks is involved, the Nashville Public Library, the Edge Hill Branch, the Adventure Science Center, Nashville Public Schools will be involved. They actually have their arts department located in the Murrell School, the former Murrell School building on the property. So we're very excited about honoring William Edmondson during the month that is the anniversary of his groundbreaking Museum of Modern Art show. His exhibition opened in late October. So we are in the capacity building phase right now, and anyone who wants to volunteer, I think the best thing to do is go to our website. By the way, one of the things that we would love a volunteer is a volunteer webmaster to help us upgrade our and keep our website current. But there is an email link on the website to volunteer, and it's edmondsonhome.org, EDMONDSON home.org. And if anyone wants to learn more about William Edmondson, you can go to chippingawaymovie.com. chippingawaymovie.com. That is the documentary that I'm producing on William Edmondson, and there's a short trailer and some information about William there. And in the spirit of networking and making requests, I want to say I've already hit up Bonnie, and she's graciously agreed to provide some organizational support to us for the festival. We also are working with the Nashville Arts, and Jessica and Shaun. I would love to connect with both of you because y'all need to be there, and we would be honored if you could join us in some capacity.
Yeah, so I love that we're making connections on this panel, but then also the thing that I love is that everyone named like other organizations that aren't even represented here. Like there's so many organizations I feel like Nashville is coming together, for a common cause. So I really appreciate that. And anyone that's listening to this maybe a little bit later, be sure to check everyone out, because I'm sure that all of these organizations are very, very active in Nashville and have, a number of things upcoming. So with that, I would just like to thank the panelists. Thanks for coming on and chatting about this important topic.
Thanks, Kamilah.
Thank you, Kamilah.
Thank you, Kamilah. Thanks for having us.
Thanks, all of you.
All right.
Thanks.